Hello, I'm Melissa from Melissa's Creations, and today I'm going to show you how to make a masculine card using a few different techniques. One thing that we're going to do is we are going to mask with the elk from the Wilderness Awaits stamp set. We're going to do some sponging to add some interest and texture, and we are going to use this Stampin' Up. If you haven't used this before, this is a really great tool how to get your image on your page exactly where you want it. So this is really, really handy. The colors we're going to use today are Crumb Cake from the neutrals, Wild Wasabi from the subtles, and Chocolate Chip from the neutrals. The two stamps we're using out of the Wilderness Awaits stamp set are the Elk and the Sentiment, Admired, Respected, Loved, That's You. I really enjoy using this stamp set. I haven't gotten too much mileage out of it yet. I've only used the Duck and the For You Sentiment. So today I'm going to use these, and hopefully soon I'll incorporate the Fox and the Dog too. All right, let's get started. So the first thing that you're going to need is your card base. For your card, this is Chocolate Chip. It's a standard size. I just cut it in half, cut an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper in half, and then I scored and folded it. This is going to be our mat, and this is 5 1/4 by 4 inches. And then last, you'll need one of these very vanilla sheets. This is 5 by 3 3/4. And we're going to go ahead and get started with this first. We're going to do some scoring with our Score Pal. If you don't have a Cuttlebug or a Big Shot, if you don't have a way to do any kind of embossing, or you just really don't have a folder that works for what you want to do, this is a good quick way to get some texture onto your page. So I'm going to I'm starting in the middle just so that you guys can see it, because if I started over here it'd be kind of difficult. I'm just going to do 3 lines spaced at 1/4 inch apart. So here's 1/4, half, and 3/4. And then I want this to be my bottom down here, so I'm going to turn it to the right and do the same. 1/4 inch, half inch, and 3/4. And that just gives it a little bit more interest and texture. I like the way that the lines meet here and make kind of a grid, if you will. So I think that's just really fun. Gives it a little bit more than just a plain piece of paper. So the next thing we're going to do is use our Stampin' Up. I'm going to set this aside for now. So you have an imaging sheet, and then you have your Stampin' Up. What you're going to do is put your imaging sheet up in the corner of your Stampin' Up, and it can go either way, left or right, but I'm a righty, so I'm going to put it here. I'm going to grab my elk stamp and my Chocolate Chip ink. I'm going to get my stamp inked up. This is one of the older pads, so that's why I'm pushing so hard. The new ones, you definitely don't have to do that too. Alright, so with my imaging sheet in place, I'm going to put my block up in the corner of the Stampin' Up, and I'm just going to stamp straight down. Okay, there's our elk. Now we're going to bring our paper back in. We're going to line up the elk where we want it. And I think I want him just slightly over my score lines that I did. I'm going to line up the bottom, but I think I want his left side just slightly over. Okay, so then you're going to bring in your Stampin' Up. Try not to move your paper. Hold down your Stampin' Up, remove the imaging sheet, ink up your stamp again. Get them nice and juicy. Put it up in the corner and just come straight down. Then you can get rid of that. And he is exactly where we wanted him to be. So that is the beauty of the Stampin' Up. I love that tool. If you don't have it, you need it. I swear I use it constantly. All right, so now that we have our elk, I cut out a mask because when we do our sponging on here, we don't want him to get discolored with that. So I'm going to throw this on, and I have some temporary adhesive here that I'm using. If you don't have one of these, because Stampin' Up! Doesn't offer these anymore, but if you don't have that, you can use the two-way glue pen and just let it dry a little bit, and then it'll be temporary. So I'm just tucking in all the glue bits so that when I do my sponging, it doesn't get stuck. And I'm going to put that right over him. Push it down so it sticks. Get rid of all the little extra glue bits. Okay, perfect. So now I'm going to put some straight mats down. So I have a couple of scrap pieces of paper that I put temporary adhesive on the back of, and I'm going to line this piece up with my score line, and I'm going to line the bottom piece up with the bottom score line. And you can see it is going over this stamp just slightly, but that's what I want to happen. Okay, so now we're going to bring in our wild wasabi and a dauber. And we're going to start at the part that you see. There's no point in going in the corner here because it's just going to be on the mask. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to start going up this way. And I want some straight, thin lines up all the way, almost to the top. And I want that to gradually get darker as I go up. So I'm inking. I'm just gonna sponge a little like this and then drag it. Okay, and then I want it to kind of radiate out a little bit, so I'm just going to do a little like this. Just kind of go up and at an angle in tiny little circular motions. And then drag it up a little bit. A little darker right here. This is really however your artistic side comes out. There's really no right or wrong way to get this done. All right, so then we're going to do the same thing over here. I want it darker in the corner here. And maybe that's a little too dark now. And then I'm going to drag it out to this off the side of my card. And maybe I'll go off the side of this too. And then I kind of want that to meet this imaginary faded line. So I'm going to just drag this out like here. And I'm also doing light pressure as I go around where I want it lighter, not pushing as hard. I'm pushing pretty hard at the dark spots, but not quite as hard in the other places. Okay, so like I said, again, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's however you want it to look. And I think I am good with that, so I'm going to take these off. Look at that beautiful crisp line right there. I really like the way that that looks. And we can take this off. And look at how gorgeous he is. So pretty. Now if I wanted to, I probably could have cut these out by hand, but that's just a little extreme for me. I don't want to go into that much work for a card that I'm going to make, unless, you know, it's really super special. But this is just a sample. I'm just playing around with some techniques. So I'm just going to take my sponge jobber and I'm going to kind of almost use the edge of it. And I'm going to come in here between his legs and I'm going to add that sponging behind it. So we're going to go back over with a little bit of chocolate chip and some crumb cake over him, so it'll kind of blend in that green color. I'm not too worried about how that looks. So I am trying to be kind of careful though, just so that I don't get too much on him. And I'm using the very tip of my sponge, and I'm starting kind of in the middle of where I actually want the ink to go, because I have more control over where it goes when I can see it. So if I start in the middle, it's a little easier. There, that's fine. Okay, so now we're going to do a little bit of crumb cake first. And just going to go like this. Get him a little bit darker. Not much. Just enough to give him some texture here. Get his legs and the rocks here. And actually, I think I'm going to put my mask back on down here so that I keep my crisp line. Make the rocks a little darker. Let's do this one too. We'll get his leg in a second. Okay, I think that's pretty good. I just wanted a little bit of dimension on him. Alrighty, so now we will come back in with the darker chocolate chip, and I'm not super great at shading things, like at all, so I'm gonna do my best to give him some shading where I think it should go, which I'm doing the underside and kind of around his behind, down the legs just slightly, and then kind of maybe on his face there. And then I'm going to come back in and daub some darkness around the rocks down here. There. Maybe a little bit more on his butt. Okay, so I'm going to take this one off. And that's pretty stark white, so I'm going to just drag a little bit of this chocolate chip down his leg here, just to really make it look like he's popping out of that page. Okay, pretty good so far. So now what we're going to do is stamp a sentiment. Oh, I still need that. Chocolate chip, here we go. All right, admired, respected, loved, that's you. And I'm gonna bring in my Stamp-A-Majig again. And you can use multiple sides. The ink is kind of fairly dry on this now, which comes straight off. You just rub it on your Stampin' Scrub and it comes right off. Or you can run it under water, that works too. So I'm gonna use my imaging sheet again, just so that I get that exactly where I want it. And let's see, how about we'll try and center it kind of over our elk right there. So bring in my Stamp-A-Majig, take off the sheet, ink up, and straight down, straight up. Perfect! Love it. That Stamp-A-Majig is a really good tool, guys. I'm telling you, you're going to love it. All right, so we're going to mount that onto our mat, and this is Wild Wasabi here. I'm just going to use some snail on this. And I cut my mat 1/4 of an inch larger than my vanilla, so I'm just eyeballing the border. Okay, and then we'll just nail that down to our base. And again, it's 1/4 of an inch larger than our mat. So it's 1/2 an inch larger than our Fairy Vanilla base. And there we go. Gorgeous. I just love that. I think that's so fun. It's very pretty. And then since this is such a dark card, I would cut another piece of Very Vanilla to go inside. So that's it. That's our card today. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you liked the video, please like it. If you want to see more, please subscribe to my channel. And you can contact me at my website or at my email address on the screen above or below, depending on where I want to put it. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. Thanks for joining me, guys.